Morning. How we doing? Great seeing you all today.
All right, Coach. So, been a pretty, eventful week, I guess, the last week. What are you hoping that your defense learned from everything they went through the last week on and off the field?
Just continue to understand the critical importance of being able to handle, and deal with your adjustments in game, prior to the game, and understanding, obviously, how critical it is to be able to finish.
In retrospect, I mean, I know you guys tried to protect them from the distractions, from the, getting too big for their britches syndrome and all that happens when you have a big win. In retrospect, do you think there were some things that contributed to how close that game was and the fact that the team had to come from behind like that?
No. I think that the team was very well prepared. There were a couple of things that they kind of, let's say, defensively threw at us that they hadn't done before or hadn't done a lot. So it was going to be a game of adjusting, and I think I can give them some credit because they changed up a lot of things that they did prior to the game as well.
Yeah, one of those was the screen game was a big factor. Is that something that you think you'll be better prepared for now, having dealt with it?
Mm-hmm.
What did you appreciate the most about your defense's effort?
Seeing how hard they played, as well as once we made our adjustments, some of the things that were issues, let's say, in the first half, eliminated themselves in the second half, and just us still being able to consistently and continuously just coach at the point of attack, being able to make the plays you're supposed to make.
Last thing for me for now, we saw a lot more of LJ early in that game. Was that because of how physical he is, or what do you think led to him getting so many reps?
Yeah, it's just one of those scenarios from an appreciation standpoint. He had a great job of practice, did very good from a skill standpoint, and we felt as though he's someone that we wanted to go with at that point in time during the game.
Coach, I know you guys want to go 1-0 every week. The opponent doesn't matter, but is there a little extra juice given that Hawaii came to this house last year and put up the points that they did?
Absolutely. You can absolutely guarantee that. That has already been a thought already. And the one thing that we try to do is know that we have to keep the main thing, and the primary focus is going to be on us, like it always is, making sure that we play hard, that we play smart, that we finish, that we start fast. So those are still going to be some of the same elements that we'll focus on coming into game week.
One of those playmakers for them is Calvin Turner, the wide receiver, who made a couple plays this season kind of shifting fields and scoring a touchdown. Have you seen those plays, and maybe how do you plan on stopping that should that come up in the game?
Yes, it's all about just consistently coaching your players and having them know the importance of your pursuit angles, and you have to have that attitude of, if I don't beat you there, I'll meet you there. And everyone has a pursuit, because you can't just think that they're down, because there's some times where 2 or 3 guys had them in his grasps, and all of a sudden he pops out the backside and he's got the speed and agility to be able to run away from everybody on the field.
In addition to Turner, they have Mardner back, they have Smart back, they have Cordero back, obviously. So a lot of the key personnel, the skill position guys, same as last year. Are they better this year than last year? You can look at their record just overall.
Yes, they are. You can tell, and they're doing a great job of moving the respective pieces around in different spots and different places. So we got a lot of respect for what they do in the throw game, for sure.
Todd Graham is a coach who's been a few different places. Does he have a specific style, something that has been consistent with him where he's been?
Everything that you've seen affiliated with Coach Graham has been about attacking something. So I know, just as a defensive coach, seeing him from the outside, it's always been about attacking. And you can see that that's kind of the mantra that they have on offense, as a fast, up-tempo, attack the line of scrimmage offense. And I would assume that they do the same thing on defense, just being able to see some of the things that they've done historically.
When it comes to open field tackling, that's something that the defense struggled with against UNLV. Mm-hmm. How do you clean that up going into this game?
Just consistently going back into our open field tackling drills. It's all about those things that we have to drill and let the players know that you're in scenarios where you have the ability to make the sure tackle. You've proven it. Now let's just go make your play.
It's a long way to go to Hawaii, and you're going to be playing in a unique facility. This is an on-campus facility that I think is like 8,000, 9,000 with no fans. So it's going to be a different atmosphere. What changes preparation-wise this week for you, for the defense, to get used to playing in a stadium that's not going to be very loud?
Well, on defense, the greatest thing about that is you don't have to worry about there being crowd noise. So the one good thing about that is no matter where you play, no matter how you play, no matter what you do, you always have to be prepared to bring your own juice. And that's something that we've already talked about with our players. No matter who is in the stadium, no matter who is there, we've just got to make sure that we're well prepared to do our job and execute our musts on every given down.
Coach, last year Hawaii's quarterback had some particular success on the ground against you guys. Just what goes into preventing that from happening this time around?
Yep. Us making sure that we do a great job of being able to keep eyes on the quarterback. And that obviously that was our first game last year coming in, and there are some things that we just had to get adjusted and fixed and tweaked.
Coach, you spoke about kind of last year's loss. Is the D-line maybe a group in the run game, especially that wants to prove how much it's improved since that first game last season?
Well, every game we come in, Jackson, our players always have a chip on their shoulder and something to prove because we try to keep the focus as much as possible on us and making sure every game we come in, you want to be 1-0 because you're only going to be remembered by what you did in your last outing or in that particular outing. So that's something that we try to do from a focus standpoint, just keep the focus channeled correctly on us.
And they've got a new offensive coordinator. Have you seen some new wrinkles in their offense so far on film?
Yeah. They do some good things, how they move the ball around, multiple personnel groups, some different heavy personnel groups that just keep you a little bit off balance, and we got to do a great job in the preparation process.
In your perspective, what changed about the run defense last Friday that led to it letting out some long runs, and what needs to change in order to stop Hawaii, Calvin Turner, Chevin Cordero, and all their top runners?
Yeah, just a couple of things that we just had to re-manipulate in the second half, because if you look at the second half rushing game, I want to say they only had like 42 yards rushing, and it was more of us just being able to go fit our plays and make the plays we're supposed to make. Often there was a guy who was at the point of attack, and a couple of times we didn't make those tackles.
What did you notice about non-conference play and conference play, if anything? I mean, is there a different intensity? Does the defense have to worry about more things with conference opponents than non-conference opponents?
No, there's usually some familiarity with your non-conference opponents, and the same level of preparation has to be there, and potentially even a little higher. The one thing that you have to know is now that individuals know who you are, you're going to get their best shot every play in every game.
Yeah, have you ever played on the islands before? Like, have you ever coached on the islands, and do you have any stories about how different it is to coach at Hawaii than stateside?
Yes, when we were at Cincinnati, we played over there, and it was a great environment, great place, as you know how crazy and awesome that their fans are, and it was a very close game. The one thing you have to do is just make sure you minimize all the distractions, have your team prepared, rested, hydrated, and ready to go.
One of the things we saw in the Hawaii-San Jose State game was the wind was an incredible factor. Is there something you guys can do to simulate that or prepare guys for moments that they don't usually experience in a game?
Yeah, you can talk with the players about it and let them know that it could be a factor, but the only way you truly can get simulations like that is to be in the fire.
And speaking of being in the fire, that's the biggest crowd you've been here for on Friday night. Did you notice a difference in the doghouse on Friday?
Oh, loved it. The energy that the Red Wave and the Doghouse is bringing, it was awesome. And that was the difference in the end of the game because there were some times they couldn't execute some plays, get some things off, get some snaps off on time, and it just allowed our players to be able to play with one more oomph in them. And you can tell that they greatly appreciated having the fans here.
Any more questions for Coach Inge?
All right, thank you. Go Dogs.
So after we go Steven, I'm going to come over here. So that way I don't have to cross the front.
How we doing? Good. All right. Good morning. Good morning.
All right, Coach. What's your takeaway from Friday night? What's the good, the bad, and the ugly, and how does that affect going to Hawaii?
Great finish. Start with the positive. That was something that really was a point of emphasis, honestly, going into fall camp and from last season or even 2019 is learn how to finish games and win. And Oregon, that was a frustrating thought for us, and this has been the second week in a row where we've had the opportunity as an offense to come back and win a football game, and we've done it. And I think that building off of that is going to be important because you're going to continue to be in those situations in tough conference play. Obviously, the lack of execution in the first quarter put us in a tough spot. As people at the game could see, we had some wide open guys, getting down the field on big shots and missed them. And, just the lack of our run game early in the football game really put us behind where we had to throw a little bit more than potentially wanted to. So we just got to execute better in the first quarter and get off to a little bit better start.
I don't know the best way to frame this, but do you feel like you missed Juan Rodriguez in the run game? I mean, is that putting too much on one guy that not having him made a difference in breaking some of that loose?
We always miss Juan. He's one of the heart and souls of this football team. But I thought Ray Powell's played a really solid football game, and it definitely was not on him. Honestly, if we're calling it like it is, the offensive line didn't handle a couple things up front that they needed to, and we just couldn't get the run game started. So we got to have better offensive line play.
And there's one play, one of Jalen's touchdowns, where you can see Jalen pointing to Ty Jones saying, hey, he's wide open, and then Jake throws the ball to Jalen. You ever seen that before?
I don't know if I've ever seen someone pointing to another guy, no. But, yeah, Jake definitely was hitting the back end of his drop. He was on one hitch, and he'd already made his decision. He had soft coverage out there, and definitely Ty was flashing across there too, but he had seen 5 and already pushed the ball outside. So, yeah, that was an interesting picture there.
I asked Coach Inch kind of the same question, but is there a little bit more juice with this week's opponent given what happened last year?
I definitely think the guys are motivated. It was a loss that, started our season out wrong, and I definitely don't think the guys have let that one go. I think there's going to be something personal to this week, and I know they're excited to play this football game.
And just for you as an offensive coordinator, how much better do you feel about the offense and the position you're in this year versus the last time these two teams met?
Yeah, we definitely have a better grasp of the system for sure, especially the guy throwing the ball. And, I think that just the confidence the guys have in executing the offense right now compared to last year at this time, or roughly last year at this time versus Hawaii, definitely going to have more confidence executing and feeling better about that.
From your perspective, what was Jake Hayner's health like during the game, and how close was Jalen to coming into the game when he started warming up?
Oh, Jake was fine. He's 100%. He's good to go. He's no issues there. I have Jalen warm up between almost every series. That's just something that we do. I've had multiple questions about that, like whether Jalen was coming in, but it's just part of our process for our quarterbacks. What you don't want is, even if Jake's shoe comes off and Jalen's got to step in there and he hasn't picked up a ball and thrown it for 50 minutes, that would be a bad situation. So I try to keep those guys warm all the time.
Has Hayner thought about his last performance against Hawaii? Obviously, his first game as a Bulldog, he threw 3 interceptions. Was that more what Hawaii did, or was that him in his debut kind of making some first-game mistakes?
Oh, it was both. You got to give him credit, making some good plays there. But there was 2 of those interceptions that were one certainly that I think Jake would want to have back, and some first-game issues that hopefully were passed. And I think that Jake definitely is a better quarterback than he was last year at this time.
I mean, what's it been like to go from that game to all the moments that Hayner's had the last couple of weeks now?
Oh, it's been a lot of fun. I think anytime you see guys progress the way Jake has and, step into the role that he's in now and producing at the level he's at, there's a level of pride that any coach would have in a guy. And just seeing his progress to where he's at right now has been a ton of fun. And especially knowing how much work he's put into it, that none of the success that he's having right now is free. There's definitely a price to pay, and Jake's always been willing to pay that price. And so is the rest of the offense. Those guys have all been growing every week and making adjustments and getting better all the time. So it's fun to watch.
And is there an update on Juan? Is there a chance you'll have him this week?
Yeah. Juan's going to be out there rolling around tomorrow, and we're planning on Big 80 being out there.
And Coach Graham made some adjustments to how he's handling the defense, play calling wise, and looks like personnel a little bit. Just what do you notice that's different about this defense?
Well, I think Victor and Coach Graham both have influences on what they've done for the last 2 years, and those are two separately very accomplished play callers on the defensive side of the ball. So you can see some personality from both of them coming through at different moments in the game, and situationally some things come out. So I think there's some complexity to what they do that you got to be ready for as a play caller. Just got to be ready for a diverse set where they're definitely a pressure-based team. They're going to bring you a lot of looks, but they also have the ability to drop a lot of guys, which we saw a little of last year. So we'll be working towards both those scenarios.
Coach, Paul asked Coach Inge about the wind. Obviously, if the wind is a factor, it's going to affect the passing game. Have you talked with Jake Hayner about that? Do you plan on talking to him about that? And how do you combat potentially some strong winds?
Yeah, there's I have actually, and luckily for us, Jake is a high velocity thrower, which means his ball turns over a lot. And as Coach DeBoer and I both grew up in the Midwest and coached quarterbacks back there where 15, 20 mile an hour winds was pretty regular. If you got a guy that can spin the ball and throw tight spirals, you'll be fine. If you got a guy that flutters the ball a little bit, it can be a big time issue. So I remember last year at I think it was Utah State, was a little bit windy and pretty cold, and just watching Jake warm up, that was the first time I'd seen him really truly throw in the wind. And he had a pretty big day that day, and he cut the ball through that wind just fine. So I don't think for us in our passing game that it'll be something that will debilitate it at all.
Cropper was named the Mountain West Offensive Player of the Week, 4 touchdowns, of course, we all know that. How much better can he get in this offense? How much more of a grasp can he have? I mean, it seems like he's involved as much as anyone can be.
Yeah, I think Jalen would be the first one to tell you a lot better. I think that he still has, believe it or not, a lot more plays in him to make, and I think luckily for us, maybe the most important part is all the surrounding pieces around Jalen, that if they start to work towards just him, I mean, you don't have to look any further than number 11 as, the next guy in line, or the guy right at the top of the mountain with Jalen, and those guys are as tough a 1-2 punch as you're going to see in the country. And so I think for Jalen being able to handle those type of scenarios where if a defense starts to focus solely on him and shutting him down, that that his job could become to absorb 2 people and make sure that they're not covering another one of our guys. So but for Jalen, I think that there's still some route running techniques and things like that I know he's still working on. And for us, I think there's still other ways that we can utilize Jalen in different type of man scenarios, which I think we'll get a lot of opportunities this weekend. So I think there's still a lot of growth. And the best part is that Jalen wants that growth, and he wants that work to get better, and is excited about that.
With the running backs, Ronnie had, I think, 48 yards on Friday, coming off that huge game against UCLA. He hasn't really had, with the exception of UCLA, a consistent performance, a consistent breakout game this year. Are you a bit surprised with a guy of his stature, his experience, that the run game just hasn't been there as strong for you guys for the most part this year?
Not until this last week. This last week, the UNLV game, I was frustrated. I was disappointed in what we accomplished on the ground. And, up to that point, when you're completing the ball over 72% in the air, and that's including putting the ball down the field, there's definitely a lot of opportunities throwing the ball right now. So some of that was expected as far as number of touches and opportunities for Ronnie. But that was kind of how the games played out. But the game plan going into this last week and Ronnie not getting involved was honestly really frustrating. I wanted 20 to be a big part of the ball game, and that got taken away to some extent. And so, yeah, we got to make some corrections and find better ways to get 20 involved.
Coach, going off that a little bit, have you seen this offense, click on all cylinders yet? Or do you see, that you guys could even get better? I mean, you guys are scoring a lot of the points, but, whether it would be passing game, running game, has everything come together yet the way you envisioned it?
Not yet. I think we've had some really good quarters, maybe even a really good half of football. But, I know it's cliched, but we definitely have not played a complete game yet for sure. And I think that's one of the things that keeps the guys coming back to the trough is they're excited that they know there's more on the plate there, and they want to get it.
Do you have any more questions for Coach Grubb? Awesome. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Coach, your theme last week, your one word was the standard. How do you feel your team lived up to that standard you wanted them to measure up to?
I think the week of preparation was done well. Not a lot that we could have changed. There's a lot that was thrown at the guys, a lot of distractions, and it's all things that just are going to take place. Number one, with a short week. Number two, coming off a physical football game. Just where you're trying to get guys healed up and you're having to change practice plans because there's less practices, there's less reps, but there's also not everyone out on the football field, practicing. So I think there was a little bit of limited what we could do, and I think this week's going to be a lot different just based on, obviously a full week of practice, and I feel like we're healthier already yesterday than we were probably Wednesday or Thursday last week. So barring anything crazy or anything coming up here today, I feel good about where we're at, and I think the guys put everything into it. I really do. I mean, I don't think that guys overlook. I know people have asked me the wake-up call and this and that. I mean, it certainly is an alert thing to where it's like, yeah, okay, it's verified that we are going to have people coming at us, and we got to be on top of our game. But to me, a wake-up call gives the tone of we were sleeping, and that's not, I don't think was the case. And we missed a couple things offensively early that I think could have broke the game open, and all of a sudden now you catch a couple of bad breaks, and like Coach Inge said, they did some nice things early in the game offensively. A couple wrinkles here and there that kept them on the football field and kept us off of it. And the thing is it was a character win for us. It truly was another one, just like the UCLA game, where our guys just fought and they bite, scratch, and claw to find a way to get it done and believe they can get it done. There's no question. When we came in the locker room, there's naturally going to be some frustration, but the frustration wasn't the whole thing wasn't that there was guys in the locker room saying things. Their focus was on how to get it corrected and how to have a great second half and find a way to get a win.
And maybe the answer to this is in what you just shared, but you said after the game, it's a lot better to learn some tough lessons in a win than in a loss. Is there a number one lesson or maybe two that you hope the team does learn from this? Yeah,
I think lessons is a good word to use. There's lessons when you win, there's lessons when you lose, and there's lessons that you learn with all the experiences you go through, life and football, you name it. So I think again, it's just verified, that in college football, and you just look across the top 25, you look across the country at any Division I, FCS, there's games that are closer than they should have been. There's upsets. It didn't go the way they thought. It's such a fine line, and it's a play here, a play there. And it's momentum swings, and fortunately, we got a team that I think just has a lot of resiliency, and so. We need to do a better job of taking care of business like we know we can early on and set the tone because I do think that we have a very quality football team. But Coach Grubb said it. We've played a good quarter, a good half here and there on each side of the ball, but there's no question we haven't played a complete game. And I guess it's on me to make sure that we do play a complete game, but I'm also excited about that because that means we have the opportunity to be that much better. And we're going through a process right now that's on a journey right now that I feel great about because the guys' mindset is in the right spot. They got a humble but hungry mindset, and they're not taking days off, and they're coming back to work ready to go every time we get that opportunity. We had a short practice yesterday. We went on the football field yesterday because I didn't want to have a Saturday, Sunday, and Monday off. And so today's our off day. Naturally, we get into the normal week tomorrow morning. But guys went out there, and it was short, but it was everyone out there doing what they need to do to get better. And we put a goal out there that if every guy could find one thing to make themselves better, that's a day that was well done.
And Jalen Cropper was pretty special the last 3 games last year in terms of production, but he's been unreal, obviously. What's the biggest difference or growth display that you've seen in him between last year and this year?
Well, there's a physical difference. He's gained well over 20 pounds, since a year ago when we played this game. Actually, it's about right at a year right now, even on the calendar. And so, that's the biggest thing. I can think of specifically some runs. I can think of one to the left a couple weeks ago here at home on a fly sweep. I can think of a bubble screen to the right along our sideline, both those against Cal Poly. I can think of plays that he's made, in the 2-minute drive against UCLA, where there's a combination of being bigger, where guys are bouncing off of him, he's falling ahead, keeping balance, and still maintaining some great speed and athleticism and twitch, to where he was able to get out of bounce on some plays and break some tackles that he's always shown he can do, but he's doing it almost every play. The area of, as far as football concerned, from a fundamental, Coach Grubb said, there's room for him to improve, always get better, but man, he's come so far. It's really cool seeing his development as a route runner, and then the ability to go really make the play on the ball. That first touchdown, or the touchdown, I think it was his first one in the left end zone, inside the 5-yard line there. There's a lot of things happening really fast, from the ball coming in hot to, the sideline, getting close to the sideline to a defender right there, ready to knock the ball out, when it hits his hand. So that happened multiple times. The toe barely getting inbounds on a later touchdown. There's just a real good confidence and calm about him, poise about him, and it comes through working extremely hard. He was, voted one of the hardest workers, or the hardest worker, #1 guy during the winter workouts that we had, and there's a reason why he's having the success he's having.
Coach, you only had 3 weeks to prepare for last season's loss, 34-19. Is it kind of personal? Is there something to prove heading into this game? And how would you assess maybe how your team is better from where you were last year?
Yeah, we're not even the same team. I can't say it's anything personal. I think it's just about us. That's what it's always been. That's what it was last year, as we were trying to get better and get our feet underneath of us and learn our systems and schemes. And, we're making adjustments weekly last week as we installed our defense in particular, as our special teams. We're just a more fundamentally sound team. We're a more confident team because we believe in what we do. We're a team that trusts each other a lot more, and we've been, I think the confidence comes with, what we've been through now in our experiences. And so it's cool to see when you go through hard times, guys come back and be more resilient. And that's a word I've used a couple times today, but that's what we've done. And so I just think last year is last year. Maybe there's a few guys, I heard you asking about Jake, and, that was one of the games he struggled in last year, but he certainly is a different player, and I think that's behind him. And he might answer that question a little bit different. He's probably still got in the back of his mind, because it's been talked about a lot during the offseason. But, we're ready to, our job and only goal right now is to just win this football game, find a way to get a win, so we can keep moving forward through the schedule and keep a successful season that we go on, head in the same direction.
Sorry. You've been a part of a handful of these meetings now. How would you assess the rivalry with Hawaii, and how different is it when there's no fans in either stadium?
Yeah, it's probably going to be eerie going back to the same feelings we had a year ago. We've had such electric atmospheres really at every game, so this is going to be considerably different. And that's where we need to have a great week of preparation, because preparation over many years of coaching, preparation breeds confidence, and confidence brings on the energy that is deep. It can't be this fake energy that all of a sudden comes to life, Friday afternoon or Saturday, morning. It's got to be something that is built up throughout the week, because you put in a lot of work and it was good, solid practices and preparation you have. So we got to, tomorrow morning, have great juice and, point out how important this game is. And I think our guys know that. It is going to be different. It's going to be a lot different. So, last year wasn't a lot of fun without fans, and so it's going to be a little bit of that. But I think where we're at as a football team right now, and what we're playing for each and every week is a huge asset for us going into this football game. Where you got to have that internal fire and that internal motivation and be driven to get it done this Saturday.
Good morning, Coach. Last week's problems, this week's benefit. You mentioned preparation. You had a short week last week, but that also gives you an extra day this week to prepare for Hawaii.
Yep.
You mentioned practice yesterday. What other benefits are there in having a Saturday off and being able to have an extra day to prepare for the Rainbow Warriors?
Yeah, I think it's obviously physical, just having a little bit of time to get off your feet. But I think as much as anything, it's a mental piece. This is 7 weeks we've been going on. Are we going on 8 now? Where it's been football every day except for the off day that we have on Mondays, since we started. And there's been we've gone to the wire in some of those games, and those are hard on you physically and mentally. And, coming off of UCLA and then playing on a short week, I think it was a welcome day off for our guys on Saturday. And everything I've heard, I think they did a great job. Just kind of being low key and enjoying it and watching some college football and being around each other. So today, again, another day for them to do any treatments and rehabbing of those guys that are dinged up, and tomorrow being fresh and as fresh as we've probably been, going into a week and ready to go.
You mentioned watching college football. If you watch college football, you saw Saturday a lot of upsets, a lot of teams in the top 25 lost. Helped you move up to number 18. Do you think that target on your back gets bigger the higher you climb up in the rankings?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I would definitely say that it is. When I look at us playing a 13 team, that was that was a big deal winning that football game. So I would say it is. But for us, we just have to look at it. I think now we're back into a good groove where there's already less attention. I can just tell you, going through yesterday and today, there's less attention on our guys. There's not as many distractions and things and interviews that they've had to do, to where we're back in a normal routine. And again, not to say, I don't think getting caught up is the way to express it, but just there's obligations that guys had to do a lot of interviews, and it just takes time away from your preparation.
One of those guys is Jake Haener, obviously, and he had another good game on Friday, 5
Yep.
touchdowns. I think former Heisman winner Robert Griffin III named him as one of his 5 Heisman favorites. Have you ever had a player in your coaching career that's generated the number of eyes and attention that Haener has? And how are you going to kind of handle Haener in this Heisman campaign that's kind of early in the woodworks but might develop if he continues to put on more good games?
Yeah, I think those awards are going to continue to come and that recognition is going to continue to come as we go deeper into the season. And I think ultimately it just comes down to, and we've told the whole team this, the notoriety you get, it comes from winning football games. If we don't win the football game on Friday, a lot of the notoriety that guys are getting goes away. And so he is certainly, one of the guys that's received as much attention as anyone I've ever coached. So it's exciting because he's bringing a lot of that attention to our football program, and in the end, it affects a lot of things, right? It affects the things that are important as far as bringing new players in with recruiting and all that. So, it comes down to our whole team, though. We just got to keep winning football games.
And last question for me is, everyone talks about games on the islands are different. You coached 2 in 2017, the Hawaii Bowl, and then at Hawaii. What do you remember from those games? And what specifically, besides the long travel to Honolulu and the winds, makes it such a difficult venue to play at? Fans or no fans?
Yeah. I think in 18 it wasn't in the bowl game. It was just different because both teams are traveling, and you have more time there. This is going to be a quick turnaround. We'll leave on Friday. There's a lot of logistical things with COVID, just having to get into the state, having to even get in the stadium is 2 different processes that we got to go through. We're back to eating meals out of box lunches and things like that when we get over there. So we're not going to spend a lot of time over there because the preparation we can do in our own facilities is much more efficient and much better. And so there's going to be a time change. There's going to be some of those things, but we'll adjust, and I think our team, we'll be ready to go. And the wind part, I'm aware of that. Again, I thought Coach Grubb nailed it. He said, talked about Jake throwing the ball. I think it mainly affects your kicking game and, your field position battle when you have those winds. And we both coached together in the Midwest, and, everyone's idea of how windy things are, is all relative, right? So we haven't seen wind yet here since I've been here at Fresno State anywhere. So, but that's all relative, but it is for, guys got to adjust, and when you're going with it and you throw a ball down the field, you got to keep running as a receiver because it's going to keep carrying, and never quit on it, never give up on it. So, but I think it'll affect more of the kicking game, and that's where you got to be conscious of those things.
Coach, for you personally as a head coach, could you compare and contrast a little bit of that first game here and what it's been like 12 months later to have a top 25 team compared to what you went through in that opener?
Yeah, I think having been here in 17, 18, certainly this being the expectation of where we're at now and where we're going, I had a very clear picture of what this needed to look like because of my previous experiences. And I think that that along with some coaches that are on this staff that were here then, along with coaches that I've known and, have been through some similar, building of a team and how we do it and me coaching with them, I think, it's just been a really cool journey that we're on, and it's going to continue on. There's going to be more highs, there's going to be some lows, there's going to be some adversity, and we just always going to treat that as temporary and move on. And I think that's what I'm most proud of is just I use the words character win, and I think we've had a couple of those. And man, there's nothing more satisfying than when you have guys that the talent and seeing them run around and do their thing, it's fun, but there's nothing more pleasing than when you really had to do something special because you had to pull together. And being down 14-0 when probably really most people didn't expect that, and just fighting and clawing your way back into it, and thinking you're over the hump but never quite being able to get there, and then them fighting back and making a play here and there. It was a struggle trying to get things to go our way. I think that game is just something I'm as proud of that game as I am any others, because we found a way. And so we're just going to keep moving forward. And, we got a very talented football team. And more than anything, we got a team of character and a team that believes in each other.
And this Hawaii team, they had some similar challenges of a new staff last year with the pandemic. They don't have the same continuity you guys have. What do you notice about the identity of this team compared to the one you faced last year?
Yeah, it seems to be getting better. You think about watching them against UCLA week 1 for them and where they've come. They're just more consistent. They're more solid, offensively and defensively. You can see, there's more of a team game being played. And this last weekend, they found a way to get some score defensively. And, offensively, I've been around seeing, the quarterback play long enough to know that he's a playmaker. They come out swinging pretty quickly last week with an explosive play for a touchdown, and we got to be ready. We definitely got to be ready because they got something to prove again. And we know that Coach Graham's going to have a team well coached that's ready to fight, and probably very similar to us. They finished out their season, I think, with a bowl win even last year, right? And I'm sure they're a little disappointed in the momentum that they've had the way it started, but they're getting things back on track. You could see that this last weekend.
Coach, it's been alluded to, but the Heisman hype for Jake Haener has started. So what's your pitch? Why is Jake Haener worthy of the consideration of the Heisman Trophy?
Well, I mean, I think there's the wins, right? You gotta win football games if you're gonna be considered in that realm, on that category. And then he's a leader. He's won football games in big ways. Obviously the stats are something that really draw your attention to what he's accomplished already this year. it is kind of crazy to think how just consistently week in and week out he's been overall, and not just this year. It goes back last year too. And so that just tells you how truly talented he is and how talented of a football team we do have. And, we know we're going to face someone that probably finds a wrinkle here and there that can slow us down that we got to be ready for. But Jake's, man, he just brings it. His preparation and what he puts into it is a big reason for his success, not just the talent and the group around him. So as long as he does that and keeps staying the course with his preparation, the sky is the limit for him, and more great things are going to happen throughout the year.
Coach, you mentioned the wind is going to be affecting special teams probably more than anything. We saw Silva get back in the game, or I guess get on the field in the UNLV game on Friday. So two-part question here. Silva being healthy is going back to being your guy. You weren't here in 2019. He had a huge kick at Hawaii that won the game at the last second. What do you talk to him about this week when he's trying to line up kicks? And, obviously it's not just him, but that whole special teams unit.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think he's a much different kicker than he was that year. He's just so consistent. You just can tell by the way, and it sounds even just since last year. He's just so much stronger and so much more confident. You can tell by the flight of the ball that he's kicking it solid. As far as just the wind, you got to do a good job in pregame, finding your aiming points depending on if you're with or against it, and if it's side wind, and you got to find your aiming points from those distances and just get really comfortable with, how the ball is going to turn or what your distance is. And so, he's in a good groove right now. And so you can't read too much into it. You just got to let those guys do what they do. And when they get there, talk it through with them a little bit, but not overcoach it, because in the end, he's kicked a lot of balls in his career, and at some point he's been through this before. So I actually remember seeing that kick and that wind. It was really late. Maybe I DVR'd it. I remember watching the game though, so I was trying to think East Coast time zone and what it is in Hawaii. I'm trying to find that pretty hard to believe that I was staying up that late to watch the game. But I do remember watching the end of the game and seeing how it finished, and it was quite a game for him.
I've got another special teams question for you. You've gone for two a lot this season. I think 3 times against UNLV, unsuccessful in those attempts.
Thanks for reminding me.
With your prolific offense, why do you think you guys have been unsuccessful in going for 2? And does it change your mindset when you get down there again?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't change. We are going to be aggressive. I mean, I think that's what it really says is that we're going to be aggressive as a team. I've got a lot of confidence in the offense. I mean, we went for 2 after the first touchdown against UCLA. If we got the right look, we got the look we wanted, and we went for it. And we had guys open. We just didn't convert it. So we just got, I think as you run them more, you're going to get more comfortable in being in those situations. I think the biggest thing with us is we need to do a better job, and this is on me, and we've already discussed it. We've got to do a better job when we score of getting it communicated that we're going for 2 to the team. We know we're going to go for 2 as a coaching staff. They're coming off the field celebrating, especially at home when it's loud. There was just it wasn't as clean as you want it to be, and then you lose the rhythm for going for 2 that you have in a normal play. And so that's something I know we discussed as a staff already, and the offense has discussed that. We got to keep the specialists from running on the football field so we don't have some of that going on, and then execute the plays that we know that we want in that opportunity. But we got in the second quarter and it was a go. I mean, it was a go as far as go for 2. In the first quarter at that spread, it wouldn't have been. And then, there's obviously some, gut instincts you go with that you can override the scale you have that every coach carries on the sideline. But once we got into the third and fourth quarter, they were pretty obvious goes, and now you just fall in line with that because you want to make it either a field goal game or the whole point system spread that that sheet that everyone carries. Like I say, the coaches all have. So, I was confident. I really was. I was confident we were going to get that third down, and they did a nice job or that 2-point conversion. They did a nice job stopping it.
So if I may ask, just to follow up on that, how do you better communicate that to the team? Is that something that takes place in practice leading up to the game, or certain scenarios where you tap a couple guys on the shoulder and say, you tell this person?
Yeah, I think it's really honestly starts with Jake, and us getting to Jake, and Jake looking immediately right afterwards, hey, we're going for 2, and then he can get the ball, and I can help with that, getting the ball in the right spot, because we wanted it moved in different hash marks in different spots, not just in the middle. And all of a sudden the clock's winding down on you and some things like that. So it's Jake and my communication with each other, and then to the officials, and then just the rest of it is actually pretty simple. It's just getting it going, getting it communicated.
And I have one last question for you, Coach. You're on the road for a while, factoring in the bye week. Your next home game is not until October 23rd. But when you guys come back, at halftime of that game, Lorenzo Neal's jersey is going to be retired. To have his number up on that press box, what he has meant to Bulldog fans, you always talk about the pride and tradition. Yeah. What does it mean to you to have his jersey retired? And do you have any recollections of him as a player, probably more in the NFL than at Fresno State?
Yeah, my recollections would be of him playing in the NFL. Certainly, and here's the thing with Lorenzo. The last year, probably the last 8 months, 9 months, somewhere in there, have been the time where I've really gotten to know him, and it's been really cool seeing what type of person he is, and I had a pretty good idea of how the Red Wave felt about him and what he all put into this place. But he came and shared with the team, and I think it was right at the beginning of the summer this year, and he stood right here in this very room, and wow, like it was a motivating speech that he gave. It wasn't long, for 10 minutes though. He spoke from the heart, and he gave us a recipe for success, that he used, that he used, and that he knew we needed to hear, and a lot of it's the same stuff, but hearing it come from him, a guy who's had so much success, and just the toughness that he brought, I think our team took a lot from it, and it's really cool seeing him get this recognition, get this honor, and having his jersey retired.
Coach, obviously the season's a little bit different than last year. Actually have played in front of fans in every game. This one's going to be different in Hawaii. Mm-hmm. There's going to be no fans there. Yep. Is there a different energy the team needs to bring, or who brings the energy to the team? There's going to be no fans there, so that energy might not be there as far as playing in front of fans like you guys have this whole year.
Yeah, it's got to be all of us. It's got to be the players, and again, like I said earlier, it comes through a great week of preparation, to where the confidence is there, the excitement's there. We're playing for something, It would be really hard if it was the very end of the year and you were having a down season, but we're in the middle of the season and having some success, and so it shouldn't be too hard for us to just because I think we're a driven football team that's pretty motivated as a group to do some big things. So a great week of preparation is ultimately what's going to lead to the energy that I think we need to have to win on Saturday.
Coach, with some slow starts in a few of the games this season, is there a common theme with those games that you can address with the team, or have they all been pretty unique in their own way, that it's not maybe a one-size-fits-all fix?
I think this week was one of the first weeks defensively we didn't get off the field right away, and I think from an offensive standpoint, it's literally, the first play of the game, let's say it's this much, overthrown, and it's a touchdown. A couple plays later, we got guys wide open, and there's just a guy falling off a block up front to where a guy's in Jake's face, and a ball might be snapped here to where his eyes are off the target, and so there's just those little. It's the fine line. And that's the thing. Like when those things are, that just tells you got to keep practicing. You know, just got to keep practicing, got to keep getting better, and you know, it's some of those guys that didn't get to practice as much last week to where that's the difference. You know, and you know, that's where you fall just a little bit short, and all of a sudden just a little harder than what we want it to be, and you know, that will help us a lot with getting those fast starts. But you know, Coach Grubb and I talk about it. You know, just getting Jake in a rhythm, and we just felt like there was a couple of guys that were going to definitely be open on this first play of the game, and that a shot was certainly a possibility. But then there was other guys on that progression with that play where we felt if he's not open, Carrick's not open, there's going to be another guy coming wide open too for an explosive play and a first down, and we just missed it. So we'll keep working at it, and that's all you can do. You can't let it get to you. You just keep grinding. You know you got a good football team. You got a great offense. You got a great trigger man, and it'll come. It'll come, and fortunately we've been able to overcome it for the most part, except for the Oregon game. But you know, we keep grinding. We'll get it done.
Any more questions for Coach?
All right. Thank you guys. You guys have a good week. Yep.